Greetings everyone. A heartfelt welcome to the product prototype launch event of Harit Vikas. I am Shubhadripal, your host for today's occasion. It is worth noting that today marks the birth anniversary of the father of our nation, Mahatma Gandhi. He famously emphasized that the earth has enough resources to meet the needs of all, but not enough to satisfy the greed of even one person. While some of us may occasionally overlook his profound wisdom, nature ensures that we do not forget it. Were we aware that we have transitioned from the era of global warming? It may sound somewhat amusing, but as previously stated by the UN's chief, we have entered a new phase known as global boiling. Furthermore, you might have heard that this July marked the hottest month ever recorded on our planet. In addition, you might have noticed unusually warm summers, along with recent discoveries by scientists indicating an unprecedented proliferation of flowering plants on land and record breaking declines in floating sea ice in Antarctica. These significant shifts serve as clear indicators of climate change. Moreover, you might have observed an uptick in the occurrence of heat waves and other extreme weather events. All these factors weighed on our decision to establish Harit Bikash back in a cafe on June 14, 2019. Now, I would like to invite Shayan, our CEO, to provide further insights about our organization.
Thank you, Shubhadri, for the lovely introduction. You may have read this famous quote of Ralph Waldo Emerson that it is not the destination, it is the journey. So, let me elaborate a bit about our journey, how we started, and how it is going now. In 2019, me, Ankita, and Shubhadri were sitting in a cafe in Kolkata and we were discussing how can we bring change to our traditional agricultural practices so that we can help farmers improve their productivity. And then and there, the idea seed of Harit Vikas was planted. We started researching how we could make a company out of this idea. And for that, building a proper core team was important. Somehow the stars have aligned, and the four of us, Jeet, Ankita, Shubhadi, and myself, have gathered together to make our core team. We are all from different educational backgrounds and have different professional experiences also. That has helped us immensely in our journey. Apart from the four of us, there are many who have helped us and guided us to make Hadith Vikas what it is today. We consider all of them a part of our extended family. In the next few months, and many Google meetings later, and some occasional meetings at cafes, we came up with our first product, the Agriculture In-Situ Monitor AIM. Our technical team will elaborate more on this later on. On November 17th, 2020, we got our registration under the Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises MSME. Kolkata got hit with three cyclones in 3 years from 2019 to 2021, and that made us think about climate change and how we can take action. And then we began our journey for climate action and we partnered with Prantik Sundarban Welfare Association. Jeet will elaborate more on this later on. After the Paris Climate Conference, there was suddenly a buzz about net zero emissions and carbon neutrality, and that has led us to the idea of our second product, Crave. Again, our technical team will elaborate more on this later on. For the research and development of our two products, we decided that we need to expand our team and also we need an office space. Then came two young and brilliant minds, Shomesh and Vargava, who have joined our team and honestly, they have given an acceleration to our journey. As I mentioned earlier, many have helped us throughout our journey. One such person is Maluncha Poddar. We were looking for a place where we could open our first office, and she gave her ground floor to us so that we can turn into our space. And By the end of 2022, on December 8th, we opened our first office space in Jagatpur, Kolkata. By the beginning of this year, we had started developing our products. We began the development of Crave and the hardware development of AIM with the goal of launching our product prototype by Interdependence Day, which is today. Our journey was full of highs and lows, but our vision, mission, and our core values, on which we have built our foundation, have kept us together and united. Our vision is to become an open community where everyone can contribute to making changes at ground level that are sustainable, where communities can support one another to adapt to climate change, and where we can all work together to achieve an equitable society. To achieve our vision, we have to collaborate with other experts around the world, along with farmers, to make innovative yet sustainable changes to agricultural fields. We have to collaborate with industrial leaders to make technology for the masses. We have to collaborate with local communities to raise awareness about climate change and with development efforts to help the world reach carbon neutrality. It is quite evident that we cannot achieve our goals without technology. But apart from technology, we have built Harit Vikas on some strong foundations, and these foundations are our core values, which we follow to achieve our common goals. These values are by being a good human being, by contributing to the community, and by complying with laws and regulations, by ensuring transparency, responsibility, and cooperation in all of our engagements. By acting morally, we can build trust with our customers, communities, investors, suppliers, and one another. By establishing a service and operational excellence based organizational culture, both in our thought and in execution.
Thank you, Sharon, for your informative overview of our journey thus far for our viewers. As Sharon mentioned, our vision is to collaborate with various communities to create a more equitable society. To delve deeper into this vision, I had like to introduce Jeet, our head of research and development, who also has a keen interest in philosophy. Jeet will now lead us into the next part of our session, where we will focus on stakeholder engagement.
Thanks Shubhadri for the nice introduction. I hope all of you are enjoying the talk so far. As you can see, the topic of my session is stakeholder engagement, driving change together. We will come to that, but before that, as Shubhadri mentioned that I have keen interest in philosophy, I would like to start my talk by remembering a few icons whose ideas have shaped modern India. I'm going to start with Swami Vivekananda, who according to Dr. Ambedkar is the best philosopher India has produced in the last 500 years. Now, in order to understand Swami Vivekananda's philosophy, we have to understand Adi Shankaracharya's view of the universe. The idea seems very simple, but it is very deep. If you understand the movie Inception, you probably will understand Shankaracharya's philosophy. He said that the universe is not what it appears to be. It's like a dream. In dreams, everything appears real, and only once we wake up, we realize that it's a dream. Similarly, the world is like a dream full of attachments and aversions. We can only experience the true universe once we attain moksha or spiritual awakening. His Vedantic philosophy centered around awakening and focused less on societal development. As a result, by the time Swami Vivekananda was born, India was going through a huge economic and social distress. Vivekananda's new Vedanta philosophy was centered around societal development. He said that for all practical purposes, the universe we see is real, and liberation can be achieved through service to society, which he called Karma Yoga. He inspired a generation to work for a better society, and one person who was hugely inspired by his work is Mahatma Gandhi, whose birthday we are celebrating today as Interdependence Day. Mahatma Gandhi is probably the biggest apostle of peace in modern times. His notion of peace is centered on nonviolence, individualism, soul force, and forgiveness. He made civil rights and freedom the mission of his life. The India that was formed post independence was based on his philosophy. He understood the importance of mutual cooperation, explicitly directed his selfless service and compassion to the downtrodden, and always called for unity in diversity. So today, we are celebrating his birthday as Interdependence Day. Another person who was born on the 2nd of October is the second Prime Minister of independent India, Lal Bahadur Shastri. A stern follower of Gandhian philosophy, he took democratic socialism to a whole new level. He always focused on the accomplishment of our society collectively. Although he was Prime Minister for less than 2 years, his policies played the most important role in securing our food and also the border. And we know him from his motto, Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan. Now, in order to build a nation, the public and private sector needs to work hand in hand towards a collective good. The Tata Group, India's largest conglomerate, is also known for starting ISC, one of the India's best research institute, and Tata Medical Center that provides subsidized medication to cancer patients. It is also known for executing government projects with less margin. One of the biggest projects that they handle is passport service, which has improved tremendously over the years. The second person that I put in the group is Nandan Nilekani. He is the co-founder of Infosys, but he joined the public sector to supervise India's largest digital infrastructure project. He is regarded as the brain behind Aadhaar, UPI, and ONDC. Nilekani said that a people-centric, technology-led model that is collaborative, equitable, innovation-friendly, and democratizes opportunity at population scale is the need of the hour. The last person that I want to talk about is Raghuram Rajan, the former governor of Reserve Bank of India. He often features in the list of probables for the prestigious Nobel Prize. He predicted the 2008 financial crisis in 2005. In recent years, Raghuram Rajan has been advocating that India should put greater focus on growth through the export of services. We, as a nation, should focus on education and skill development for the service industry. Our software industry has proven a great success because they have been able to provide software services at a distance. So given that we can expand services like this, why not push on this also as a way of increasing our exports? Not just manufacturing, but a variety of services, telemedicine, legal services, financial services, or our favorite, climate action services. So, by remembering these great people, let's see how we are following their vision to develop a stakeholder-driven organization. In order to understand stakeholder capitalism, we need to first understand the shareholder capitalism that we see around us. The core idea of it is that only business creates value. The goal of the business is to maximize profit and thus maximizing the share value. But it has problem. It doesn't take a holistic approach and it doesn't know how to handle waste. That is why we see so many crises, such as economic crisis, environmental crisis, and social crisis. The idea of stakeholder capitalism is that value is created collectively. Not just the shareholder, but stakeholders such as customers, suppliers, employees, and the community it serves play a key role for the business. Hence, the wealth is redistributed among the value-creating stakeholders. It is not driven by profit, but problem-solving intention. An example of it could be patent pooling that we saw during the pandemic, or the 1969 moon mission where the stakeholders came together for a collective goal that is to send a man to the moon. Software industry we see around us is a spin-off from the space industry. And it is our firm belief that if we want climate action, we have to engage with stakeholders. That is why we have partnered with Prantik Sundarban Welfare Association to begin our journey for climate action. It is an organization by the people of Sundarban and for the people of Sundarban. Together we applied to the Future of Work Challenge organized by MIT Solve. For those of you who don't know, Sundarban lies in the low coastal zone of Bay of Bengal, making it very vulnerable to the effects of the changing climatic conditions such as floods, cyclones, relative sea level rise, and coastline erosion. Since colonial times, the mangrove forests of Sundarban are exploited for timber production or cleared for human settlement. The economic value of mangroves for services such as flood protection is not included within national budgets. Mangrove forests capture massive amount of greenhouse gases from the atmosphere and then trap and store them in their carbon-rich flooded soils for millennia as biomass from organic litter. Mangrove forests also provide habitat and refuge to a wide array of wildlife such as birds, fish, invertebrates, mammals, and plants. The roots, trunk, and canopy of the mangroves can dissipate storm surges and waves. Studies show that mangrove can reduce up to 66% of wave energy in the first 100 meters of forest width. Mangrove can also cope with sea level rise through gradual vertical growth. Prantik Sundarban Welfare Association has set up 6 local units on different islands of Sundarban. The local units take mangrove plantation and caretaking as primary task. The locals have taken the mangrove conservation unit by heart and has joined Prantik Sundarban in their conservation effort. You can scan the QR code to know more about our work. Our team wants Triple Win project for climate, community, and biodiversity conservation. Through conservation activities and the sale of mangrove carbon credits, the team will be able to generate revenue which can be used for community development. The second problem is overdependence on forest and lack of opportunities. Around 40% of the total population is composed of scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, a huge population that has been historically deprived of development, majority of them lying below poverty line. Majority of the population living in Sundarban are dependent on agriculture, fishing, or honey collecting. They often have to go deep into the forest for their livelihood and often lose their life in the process. Records show that between 1985 and 2008, 789% were attacked by tigers, out of which 666 succumbed to their injuries, and a total of 279 incidents of tiger straying cases occurred in the fringe villages. In addition to that, these marginalized people frequently lose their houses during the season of cyclones. So a huge chunk of this population is migrating to work in cities as laborers or household helps. Over the past decade or so, embroidery has become a traditional craft and an empowering tool for women in India. And to help their families out of poverty, the community saving homes has been popular among the people as a better alternative to depending on the forest or working as migrant workers. You can scan the QR code to read more about how our community saving rooms provided local employment during the pandemic. Currently, the products are being sold in Kolkata. The team is planning to expand to sell to rural markets because 65% population of India lives in rural areas. That brings us to the third challenge of digital literacy. While the metros of India gear up to compete globally, the rural areas still lack opportunities. The primary reason being lack of employable skills and digital awareness. In order to reduce youth unemployment, young people in rural areas will need to get sustainable jobs and remain in their jobs. To achieve this, young people will need to increase their job-specific skills and experience, become more work-ready, and become more motivated to work. The team is planning to set up a vocational training school. We plan to train the locals. The vocational training center will serve 4 key activities: sustainable management, digital awareness, expansion of local business using digital and direct marketing, and financial planning. This will encourage them to set up their own small businesses and improve the financial condition. Internet penetration has made mobile broadband available to masses at cheap rate. The team wants to use this opportunity to upskill the locals. The team is also going to host YouTube live session to raise awareness and train the local for mangrove conservation. Hopefully, together we can make a better tomorrow for the people of Sundarban. Now, we like to identify ourselves as sustainability consultant, and we use technology as tools. In the upcoming session, Ankita will talk about the importance of open source. But before that, I want to talk a little bit about our open source project Saya. The word Saya means shadow. So Project Saya is our attempt to develop a digital shadow of the real world phenomena. The digital shadow can be seen as a preliminary stage of a digital twin. A digital twin is a digital replica of a physical object. In digital twin, a change in the physical world is reflected in the digital world, and a change in the digital world is reflected in the physical world. But in digital shadow, a change in the state of the physical object leads to change in the digital object, but not vice versa. So with Project Saya, we are trying to develop digital objects of real-world phenomena. We have global collaborators to help us develop the tools that we need. I'm personally involved with 3 projects, that is Harit Vikas, MoveFind and E-Ray. All 3 projects have global footprints. Our main tool is Earth observation data. At Harit Vikas and MoveFind, we want to use the satellite data for agriculture, forest and pasture management. And at E-Ray, we are using Earth observation data for water management, especially to identify algal bloom. We are supplementing the Earth observation data with In-Situ sensors. At Harit Vikas, we are developing agriculture In-Situ monitor to monitor soil condition. At MoveFind, we are developing Collar for animal health monitoring. And at E-Ray, we are developing WAMO for water management. The software and hardware development is done in collaboration with our partners. Oxeltech, a German-based company, is helping us develop the hardware, and Rainer Software, an America-based company, is helping us developing the Earth observation tools. These partnerships allow us to do more by pooling resources. While there is still a competitive element, there is also an opportunity for cooperation and forging new international partnerships to deliver climate action. So to conclude it all, we are doing global collaboration to develop solutions for local needs. And it is our firm belief that along with our stakeholders, we can make a climate resilient, equitable society where all of us can prosper together. Thank you.
Jeet, we appreciate your enlightening insights into stakeholder engagement. In today's world, it is imperative that we consider our stakeholders if we want to progress sustainably. As Jeet has aptly pointed out, technology will be instrumental in realizing our objectives. To elaborate on this aspect, I am pleased to introduce our Chief Technical Officer, Ankita, who will lead us through the strategic utilization of technology in achieving our goals.
Thank you, Jeet, for a really nice session, and Shubhadri for introducing our technical team and handing me the reins for this next part. Now, as Shayan said, the goals of Harit Vikas as an organization cannot be achieved without the help of technology. Let me elaborate on that. Technology has always been one of the most important means by which humankind has progressed over the course of years. From cave dwellers learning how to make fire to now sending missions in space to explore what's beyond our planet, we have come a long way. We have always found a way to survive through both natural and, in the most recent decades, man-made calamities, and we have always tended to come out stronger, if not wiser. We, as a species, have only been on this planet for 300,000 years, which is roughly only 0.007% of the entire history of our planet, which is 4.5 billion years old. It is true that even in this seemingly insignificant amount of time, our race has made incredible amounts of progress. Just imagine, some millennia ago, we had just started to use tools such as spears and other hunting tools, and fast forward to today, we are thinking about possibilities which go beyond this planet. Colonies on the moon, Mars. But every progress has a price, and the rate at which we as a species have progressed, the price is indeed heavy. There was a sharp rise in global population, especially since the 1950s. According to the United Nations, there has been a steady global population growth of 1.1% per year. This rise in population, along with several other socio-economic, geographical, biological factors, to name a few, gave rise to deforestation, air and water pollution. Hunting became a well-known hobby once food was readily available on our tables, leading to a severe loss of balance in our ecosystem. Rapid industrialization of the food industry caused huge farmlands being used for monoculture. Poultry and cattle farming have been proven to contribute to 9% of the total anthropogenic carbon emissions. These are just a very few basic issues I'm talking about here. Shubhadri, during his opening speech, already spoke about how the era of global boiling has now begun. It's time to act. But you know what? There is still a silver lining. The same technologies which might be indirectly or directly responsible for the climate crisis we face today, what if I tell you that the same or similar technologies can be used to act and save our planet from the said crisis, or at least slow it down? Advances in technology such as artificial intelligence, sensor and chip manufacturing, and they're slowly entering our daily activities is one of our biggest hopes. Due to such advancements, today we have applications where a hobby gardener can scan their plants with their mobile camera, and the plant's health condition, probable diseases, cure is just flashed on the screen. There are complex sensor systems which monitor soil and crop health and can give continuous data and feedback, which can be used to slowly adapt to more sustainable farming practices. With the help of technologies such as Internet of Things, a manual farmland can be transformed into a smart farm, where from irrigation to sowing times to the entire life cycle of the crop can be observed and monitored with the click of a button and without much human interference. Using technology, we can solve problems such as over irrigation, monocropping, pest attacks, and also limit and eventually replace the use of harmful chemical based pesticides and fertilizers with something more sustainable. Now, let me come to the recent hot topic, the space industry. Well, okay, not a very recent hot topic, but more so because of our successful landing on the dark side of the moon. What if I tell you we can use the data being collected by satellites roaming far up above us to monitor a variety of things such as water quality, air quality, the vegetation index of the place, do comparative studies to see the impact of various natural and man made disasters? These kinds of data are specifically termed as Earth observation data, and this is one of the most brilliant pieces of technical tools we can use to combat and take action against climate change. We at Harit Vikas are combining all the above tools to give you our two ideas: the AIM, which is short for the Agricultural In Situ Monitor, and CRAVE, Carbon Robust Administration and Visualization Environment. AIM is an environment IoT system which monitors and transmits soil health parameters and the position of the system to our database cloud. This specific data can then be used for developing a variety of problem solving algorithms which intend to help the farmer or home gardener in their day to day related activities. Crave is the digital application which intends to use the data generated by AIM, couple it with Earth observation data and AI to provide useful insights. First and foremost, this will do real time monitoring of a given location or locations to track the area's vegetation index, air quality, water quality, to name a few. These monitoring tools can be powerful means to also validate carbon sequestration projects and create a trusted environment to deal with carbon credits. Shubhadri will touch base further on this topic and how Harit Vikas enters into the picture. AIM and CRAVE have been in active development since the last few quarters, and I'm pleased to announce that our developers will be shortly demonstrating them for you. I will now hand over to our hardware developer Bhargav, who has developed our first working version of the AIM.
Thank you, Ankitadi. Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to introduce you to our product, the Agricultural In-Situ Monitor, AIM, with which we can obtain soil parameters such as electrical conductivity, pH, moisture, temperature, and NPK values in real time, along with the coordinates of our device. The four key components of the Agricultural In-Situ Monitor are data acquisition, onboard processing, telemetry, and the storage. The communication between the soil sensor and the microprocessor is done using the UART protocol. The signal sent by the sensor is RS485, so we convert the signal to RS232 using RS485 to TTL converter. The converter is connected to TX and RX GPIO pins on the Raspberry Pi. The GNSS sensor is interfaced with our Raspberry Pi, our microprocessor, to give exact coordinates of our device in real time. It is connected to the Raspberry Pi using USB UART protocol. GNSS sensor uses complex signal processing algorithm to filter and analyze the received signals. The GSM SIM module is used for communication purposes. The received data from the Raspberry Pi can be transmitted to the cloud using this GSM SIM module. Now, let us see the flow of signal and the demonstration of the circuit. The sensor is connected to Raspberry Pi using RS485 to TTL converter. GSM SIM module is used for communication purposes. GNSS sensor gives out the precise location of our device. Using the soil sensor, we'll be able to know the parameters of the soil by which we can assess the soil nutrition. Thank you everyone for giving me the opportunity to explain our product, the Agricultural Institute Monitor. Now over to Somesh.
Thank you, Bhargava, for enlightening us about AIM. And hello, everyone. I'm Somesh Lahiri, and today I'm excited to take you on a journey through the development of our incredible product, the Carbon Robust Administration and Visualization Environment, or we can simply call it CRAVE. But before we dive in, let me start with a quote that captures the essence of our mission: bringing the power of satellite imagery to environmental monitoring one pixel at a time. Crave is a revolutionary platform where Earth observation images through the OPIE API comes to life. It's not just about rendering images, it's about monitoring, analyzing, and understanding our environment in unprecedented ways using AIM data. So, how did we get here? Let's talk about my journey. The journey began with a deep dive into world of satellite imagery. I learned about image acquisition and even had the chance to play around the tools like EO browser to gain insights into the vast potential of its data. Next, I explored Tyler's OPIE platform and learned how to fetch images through OPIE API. It was the first step in connecting the power of satellite imagery to our project. To truly make Crave come to life, I needed to understand the heart of our application, its code base. This was a crucial step in ensuring that every piece fits seamlessly into the puzzle. With the knowledge and tools in hand, it was time to start developing Crave using React TypeScript. The journey had officially begun and the possibilities were endless. As Crave took shape, I implemented various features. We achieved remarkable milestones like fetching Earth observation images of a location and overlaying them over a leaflet map. We populated all AIM locations on the same map as markers, displaying date and time wise sensor data fetched from the Firestore database, which is also linked with AIM. But that's not all. We added an area of interest drawing tool over the map, allowing users to create polygons and mark their area of interest where the Earth observation images will get overlaid. And now our journey continues. I am currently engaged in research and development for biomass estimation. This is a crucial step as it takes us on a step closer to understanding the carbon footprint of our environment. Crave is more than just a project. It's a commitment to environmental stewardship. It's about harnessing technology to make a difference in our world. So now I will demonstrate the working of Crave. The first step is to log in or register in our Crave application. Here, I will put my credentials and tap on Login as I have already registered. This is the landing page of our Crave application and it has area of interest which is set by me. Now let's zoom out and explore the features of Crave. On the top right corner, there is a layer control section which enables the visibility of aim markers. After clicking on a marker, an information tab appears on the right side of the screen and it has two filters. The first one is date and the second is time. Now I will select a date and on clicking the slider, I will select different times. And as you can see, the values of sensor data are getting changed. Now I will select a different marker and I will choose a date And on changing the time slider, the values are getting fetched from Firestore database. Now, let's hide the markers and explore our area of interest, where we will load Earth observation images fetched from OPIE. Now, I will click on Go button, and as you can see, a image date appears. This image is fetched from OPIE, and on changing the date, we will see different images. And as you can see, on changing the image date, different images are getting fetched from OPIE API. Thank you for being a part of this incredible journey. With Crave, we are making strides in understanding and preserving our environment one pixel at a time. Once again, I am Somesh signing off. Now I will hand over to Ankita, who is going to take the session further.
Thank you, Bhargav and Somesh, for the amazing demo and, of course, for the great work you guys have been doing with us here at Harit Vikas. Now that we know what AIM and CRAVE are respectively doing, I would like to ask you all to think about a scenario. Just imagine the person or the group of persons who discovered how to make and use fire kept this knowledge just to themselves, and when anyone else asked for the knowledge, they began charging a hefty fees for the same, which at that point would probably mean one whole deer or something of that sort. Just imagine how tough progress would have been if knowledge always had a hefty price associated with it. Well, thankfully, that didn't happen due to whatsoever reason. But this brings us to why I started this session with something like this. It's because I want to talk about open source. The most foundational knowledge in our life has been open source, be it using the alphabet, taking the work on the theory of relativity forward after Einstein's demise, or even something as simple as the design of a toothbrush. Linux is one of my favorite operating systems and is also one of the largest and oldest open source communities in the world. Imagine if we had to pay hefty amounts of licensing price for Ubuntu or Debian OS. Seems really unreal, right? Well, open source is a powerful idea which helps us and has been helping us share significant developments, knowledge, and tools around a community of like minded people. Harit Vikas aims to be largely community focused entity, and what better way than to actively involve the community in the development? And as you heard Jeet in the previous session talk about Project Saya and how a group of like minded stakeholders are coming together to build something bigger and also socially impactful. But now comes the question, doesn't open source mean it's free and everyone can copy our software and use it for themselves? What about intellectual property rights? How can we sustain our company if no one is going to pay us for using something we developed? Well, it's a little bit more complicated than that. To explain it further, let me talk about a few startups which developed open source software as their main or one of their main products and how they secured funding. Let me start with one of my personal favorites, Docker Incorporation. This startup, founded by Solomon Hykes, is 10 years old and is the developer of the open source containerizing technology Docker Engine. Now, people like me who work with software development and operations know and use this software every day. The startup has currently raised around $272.9 million in funds. Databricks, which is one of the most used open source data analytics platform, is also another such startup which has currently raised around $497 million as funds. OpenFin is a financial tech company which was founded by Chuck Doerr and Maisie Dar. According to the company, their software is currently being used by nearly 1,500 companies and is installed on at least 200,000 desktops. They have also raised funds around $25 million. But wasn't open source software free to use? Then how are these startups securing funds for something like this? Let's now try to understand how an open source community actually works. I read a quote somewhere once which read, "The best person to do a job is the one who most wants to do that job." And I also believe that the best people to evaluate the said person's work are their friends and like minded peers. Open source communities are self governing and self organizing with no executives to decide the direction the software development is going to go. The community works with an assumption that if enough people want a feature in the software, it will be developed. It heavily relies on peer review and volunteers taking up work. Another misconception is that to be part of the open source community, one needs to know how to write code. There are bigger steps involved in developing an open source software. Testing, documentation, user experience design, everything is done by the community. The people who are meant to use the software on a daily basis are the ones who test them, document them, and make the UX decisions. It's like software by the people and for the people. Now that we have a brief idea how open source communities work, we come to how these communities and projects can be funded. There are various ways in which we can do that. I will elaborate on three particular ways which can help fund and sustain open source projects: donations and sponsorships, awards and grants, consulting and training. The simplest way of funding an open source project is through donations. People who actively use or benefit from the project can volunteer to donate to the development of the project. For example, Wikipedia is an open source project as well, which depends on donations from its users for sustaining. Sponsorships are a bit more formal agreements where the community developers and stakeholders, such as companies, institutes, to name a few, offer either financial or in kind support, like providing talents for dedicatedly working in the community development. Grants and awards are also a great way of funding open source projects. Grants are funds that are given by grant makers such as foundations, governments, or research institutes to support specific goals or outcomes related to the open source project or community. Awards, on the other hand, are funds given by organizations, media, events, etc., to recognize the achievements or impacts of the project. The third way I would like to talk about is through consulting and training. Consulting is a service that involves providing expertise, advice, or solutions related to the open source project or community. Training is a service that involves teaching, coaching, or mentoring others on how to use, implement, modify, or contribute to the open source project or community. I would like to close by saying open source has been there and is definitely the future of software development. Developing socially impactful software projects and making it available to everyone who also wants to leave a positive impact on our planet is definitely easier when a community of like minded peers come together and start doing what they like and how they like. We need such like minded people coming together to solve real community wide problems with solutions that can be made available to the masses. In the end, it's not how advanced the technology is that decides the outcome of a project, but how well and with what intent it's being used that makes all the difference. Thank you to everyone who joined us today. I hope my team and the showcase of our technical work irked some interest in you. Let's make Earth great again.
Thank you, Ankita, and the entire technical team for delivering a remarkable presentation that has hopefully illuminated our viewers regarding the ongoing technical endeavors. As Ankita has highlighted, our product Crave holds significant potential to revolutionize carbon sequestration projects. In the upcoming slides, I will delve into the current state of the carbon market, the obstacle it encounters, and finally, the opportunities for us to make entry in this sector. At first, let's understand what a carbon market is. Carbon markets are a type of trading system where carbon credits are bought and sold. From a company to individuals, all can use these credits to compensate for their greenhouse gas emission. One carbon credit is equals to sequestration or reduction of 1 ton of CO2 or equivalent amount of different greenhouse gas. Further, once a carbon credit is used for emission purposes, that carbon credit can no longer be traded on exchange. Now, let's move on to the importance of the carbon market. To understand the importance of the carbon market, first we need to know the current challenges faced by the world. According to the 6th IPCC report on climate change that was published in 2022, average annual greenhouse gas emissions during 2010 to 2019 were higher than in any previous decade. You can refer to this graph regarding this. Further, UNFCCC report states that developing countries will need around 6 trillion US dollars by 2030 to finance just half of their nationally determined contributions. Also, the IPCC report states that The current fund flow is 3 to 6 times lower than the levels needed by 2030. In this scenario, carbon finance will be key for the implementation of NDCs. That's why around 83% of NDCs across the world state they are intent to make use of international market mechanisms to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Now, let's understand how carbon credits are generated. The carbon credits can be generated either by carbon avoidance or by carbon removal. Let's focus on the left picture. The grey box indicates emission and the blue box indicates avoidance. Suppose 1 ton of CO2 is emitted in a place. Under the carbon avoidance principle, 1 ton of carbon emission is avoided elsewhere from a different project, and a carbon credit is generated against the avoidance. The emitter can purchase this carbon credit to fulfill their GHG emission goal. But the drawback of this process is that 1 ton of carbon will remain in the environment. Under the carbon removal process, 1 ton of CO2 is sequestered by some process such as afforestation, and a carbon credit is generated against it. The emitter can purchase this credit to comply with their GHG emission goals. Under this process, as 1 ton of CO2 is removed from the environment, CO2 level in the environment will remain the same. Both carbon avoidance and carbon removal are required to reach the Sustainable Development Goals. As you can see from the right picture, initially avoidance will complement the emission. As time progresses, we have to reduce the emission and increase the removal to achieve carbon neutrality. As we understand the process of carbon credit generation, let's move on to the types of carbon market that are currently present. Broadly, there are two types of carbon market: compliance and voluntary. Compliance market is a regulated market that is based on national, regional, and/or international regulation. There are several compliance markets such as European Union Emission Trading System or EU ETS, Cap and Trade System of California, etc. On the other hand, transaction of carbon credit occurs in the voluntary market without any legally binding effect. In the voluntary market, the interstate companies buy carbon offsets to reach the target of net zero emissions. Example of voluntary standards include Gold Standard, Vera, etc. Now, let's see the current status of the carbon market. First time at the global level at the Kyoto Protocol in 1997, the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change introduced three market-based flexibility mechanisms regarding the carbon credit. These are Clean Development Mechanism or CDM, Joint Implementation or JI, and International Emission Trading or IET. Under Paris Agreement in 2015, under Article 6, further progress of these mechanisms were discussed that resulted in the introduction of Internationally Transferred Mitigation Outcomes ITMOs and multilaterally overseen baseline and credit system under Article 6.4. After that, International Civil Aviation Organization or ICAO established a pilot baseline and credit mechanism known as CORSIA or Carbon Offsetting and Reduction Scheme for International Aviation, which started operating in 2021. The aim of this project is to incentivize the carbon neutral growth of the international aviation sector. According to a report of the World Bank in 2021, at the national level, currently at least 29 ETS and 27 baseline and credit systems that exclude the voluntary market are in place around the world. At the supranational level, the EU ETS is the largest ETS currently in place. At the national level, several countries including China, UK, New Zealand have already implemented ETS. At the subnational level, California Cap and Trade, Quebec Cap and Trade are some of the examples of regulatory carbon markets. In the voluntary market, several standards such as Gold Standard, Vera, etc. are currently in place. Now, let's shift our focus to more recent developments in the Indian context. Recently, India passed the Energy Conservation Amendment Act 2022 that provides the provision for establishment of a carbon market. It also enhances the Energy Conservation Building Code. Further, it enables the mandatory promotion of sustainable energy practices such as use of clean energy, including green hydrogen. The Carbon Credit Scheme 2023 gives the structure of the Indian carbon market. Implementation of the Indian carbon market will help India to lower the emissions intensity of its GDP by 45% by 2030 compared to the 2005 levels. Further, it will help to reach India's commitment of net zero by 2070. Additionally, India notified a draft green credit program that will incentivize voluntary environmental actions of various stakeholders. In addition to these efforts, India has recently launched the MISTI scheme, an acronym for Mangrove Initiative for Shoreline Habitats and Tangible Incomes. As previously emphasized by Jeet, mangroves serve as highly efficient carbon repositories, capable of storing up to 4 times the amount of carbon compared to the other forested ecosystems. They also play a crucial role in mitigating the threats posed by rising sea levels and cyclones. The primary objective of this scheme is the restoration of mangrove cover across 9 states in the country. Over the upcoming 5 years, there will be a comprehensive development of nearly 540 square kilometers of mangrove areas spanning across 11 states and 2 union territories. This initiative is set to commence in the fiscal year 2024. With these initiatives, India embark on its journey to emerge as a significant player in the realm of carbon management for the future. Now, let's move on to the challenges faced by the carbon market. Among several challenges faced by the carbon market that potentially hinders its growth, we will discuss here three major issues that need to be addressed to increase the transparency and trust of the market participants. First is double counting. Double counting can occur in several ways. For example, giving more than one unit of allowance or credit towards the same emission or emission reduction. It can also occur when the same credit is used towards a country's own climate pledge while being sold as an offset in the international market. Further, double counting can occur if a unit of carbon credit is transferred to another registry without being cancelled in the original registry. To minimize the chance of double counting, policies across the globe need to be coordinated. Further, compatibility across policy and a common greenhouse gas emission matrix required that can be used across all the systems. The second challenge is greenwashing. In this case, a company may simply buy carbon credits to offset their carbon footprints instead of reducing their overall emission. To prevent greenwashing, greater transparency is required among market participants. Instead of just claiming a carbon neutral product, a company must show a goal based target and tracking its progress and finally giving some verifiable reports on the work done by it to mitigate emission. The last point that I will discuss here is about carbon rights. If the previous two challenges are solved by technological advancement, the next question arises: if the carbon market is properly developed, then revenue from it goes to whom? To the government, who owns the land, to the indigenous community, who has traditional rights of forest products, and even if the rights are given to them, are they able to negotiate sales of carbon credits autonomously? Or carbon credit should be given to the companies that involved in the project management. As none of the countries are yet to completely resolve this issue, it shows the legal complexity of this issue. Moreover, various ethical questions emerge depending on each country's laws. Should the funds go directly to the indigenous community, or should the government utilize them for the greater public good? Given the intricate and multifaceted nature of this issue, which encompasses both ethical and legal dilemmas, policymakers must carefully craft solutions to ensure the overall development of the carbon market while also striving to achieve the sustainable development goals. Now, as an organization, our primary mission is to provide sustainable transformations of agriculture that will help to reduce poverty. Further, partnering with our stakeholders enables us to make an impact in climate action. These initiatives are in alignment with several of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Furthermore, recent initiatives undertaken by the Indian government, along with the global expansion of the carbon market, underscore the significant role that carbon trading can play in addressing climate change. By positioning ourselves as early adopters in this emerging carbon market, we stand to reap substantial benefits. I am optimistic that we are taking steps in the right direction, benefiting not only our growth but also the journey of the stakeholders who join us on this path. With this, I would like to conclude and hand over to Shayan for the final remarks of this session. Thank you.
Thank you, team. Steve Jobs once said that great things in business are never done by one person, they are done by a team of people. I'm extremely proud of my team. I hope all of you enjoyed our Interdependence Day talk. I will go back to our common vision, which is to become an open community where everywhere can contribute to making the world a better place. So, I hope we can discuss this further and we can collaborate on our products and services. To do that, you can contact us via email or by phone. You can also check out our website. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, X, and on LinkedIn. All the links are given below in the description. If you like this video, then do press the like button and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's all everyone. Thanks for watching. Bye and take care.